All right, good morning, agents. This is Kevin Lauren. I'm the Director of Training and Marketing here at Alta Realty Group. And today we're going to talk about the subtle and somewhat frustrating art of pricing a home in 2026. Started the year thinking that things might change, but things have been pretty stagnant and pretty tough to price, a lot of days on the market, things like that. So today we're going to have a real live discussion on the things that we can control and how you should be pricing homes in 26. So Bill, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. How are we?
We're doing good. It's a beautiful Wednesday and good day to talk about some hard truths.
Well, pricing homes is definitely, some agents are really good at it. Some agents, it's kind of their weak point. So it's always a good topic to revisit and have a chat. And I'm sure I'll have some input here. Um,
Yeah, I know that you're pretty darn good at it, and so that's your input is going to be pretty paramount today.
well, it's only taken 24 years to get decent at it, but developing a process is probably the biggest thing for me, and a repeatable process. But I'll let you go through your kind of presentation here, and then I can comment on it. But in the short term, feels like we are in the dog days of summer.
We're right smack in the middle of it, Bill.
I can tell by just the way down here in Southern California, just on the coast, just people are, you can tell kids are going back to school. Things are starting to change a little bit. There's less people driving around, which is always a little bit nice, but definitely feels like we're in the transitory stage of summer here. And albeit it's been hot probably everywhere, it definitely has that kind of beginning end of summer feel.
Yeah, that's for sure. The whole state's pretty much the same, so we're all with you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my neighbors and people with kids that aren't back in school yet, they have taken their vacation or they're on their vacation. So I feel like too, when I mentioned the dog days of summer, that also correlates to the real estate activity. It kind of takes a little bit of a pause here before the kids get back into school, and then it has a nice little fall push. So it's a good time to be talking about pricing and kind of preparing ourselves for the end of the year.
That's for sure. And as you said, the dog days, my dog Willow had to, of course, chime in. She thought you were talking to her for some reason.
She's a good girl.
That's right. All right, good. So, Bill, I know you came out yesterday with a broker tip. Do you want to go through that with us?
Yeah, that was just a good let me just pull it up here because I don't have it handy, but I thought it was some good information about kind of bro or buyer sentiment.
Yeah.
And it basically, in a nutshell, was just, talking about buyers are acting and not sitting on the fence. Um, some statistics were that, it says, for the first time since 2023, a majority of consumers saying buying a home beats renting. And the deeper story is a shift from waiting for perfect conditions to working with the market as it is. So a lot of us had potential buyers that were, waiting for interest rates to come down. Well, we know what that has done for them. It's just made them wait longer because rates did not come down. We talked about this last fall. We were anticipating rates to go down. We didn't anticipate all of the variables that go into a bond market that would have brought rates down. But like I said, we can't control everything, and even the pundits can't get everything right. So this information is basically, to summarize it, is that buyers are finally kind of accepting where the market's at. They may get a break in interest rates, they may not, but they feel like getting into the market, getting into home is better than sitting around and waiting. So that's encouraging, right?
Yep, that is definitely encouraging. So, that is one of the positives that we have going for us, for sure.
Yeah, and like the key stat that I took from this little article was that 79% of buyers say they plan to move forward regardless of market conditions. So that's a pretty high metric for, eight out of 10 people are saying they're going to go forward, and kind of, probably just try to get in when they can and wherever they qualify for, and they'll get into the market and get going.
And that is good advice. It's the smart way to go. We all know that there are people that are, somewhat sitting on the sidelines. And as soon as those rates drop, which is, you know, whether it's in a month, 2 months, 6 months, 10 months, doesn't matter. Eventually, they do come down, and that will increase the competition. Home prices probably start going back up there, and your dream home that you had your sights set on will be gone. Somebody else will take it.
Well, and there is that key point in there. If rates do come down, you will get all the people that, you'll get the additional people that weren't willing to take that chance or get in now. So there's always that part of the equation to consider. And, I think that there's a lot of tools out there too. We've talked about this pretty much almost every week for the last couple months about the buy downs and getting starter rates more friendly to buyers. There's so many little tools and ways to help them in the short term. But yeah, it's encouraging.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks for that, Bill. And we will definitely be talking about a little bit more about that in today's presentation. But before we get into today's presentation, let's take a look at the markets as we always do. So here is the 10-year Treasury. We've been bouncing around, hit those peaks, kind of came back down. We got another little mini peak there. So what do you see here, Bill?
Yeah, really all that is just the news cycle. I mean,
Yeah,
and the price of oil and all of the stuff that we talk about as far as the geopolitical environment. So those are just you know, you know, responses to what's going on out there. I know that the inflation report came in yesterday, and it was like 3.4%. But there's one thing for sure: we all feel it. We go to the market, we go to the gas station, we go pay our bills, and nothing seems to be getting cheaper. So
that is a fact.
it's another good reason why you should use Clearview or Raquel at Legacy and save $350 for your transaction because it's real money and it does add up and it does help you.
Well said, Bill. All right. Well, thanks for all that. Let's shift gears now to our presentation. So, like the title of the presentation says, the art of pricing a home in 2026. So it can be frustrating. Like Bill said, some agents are really good at it, some agents not so good. So the way that things are going and have been going, agents should be pricing their listings for where the market's going to change days on the market outcomes. So that's the kind of the kiss of death, right? Your listing is sitting on the market for over 30 days, 40 days, 45 days, and the clock keeps ticking, and the pressure just starts to mount, right? So we're going to take a look at a little case study. So an agent named Martha has a problem that a lot of agents are wrestling with right now. So she's got a listing in Northern Cal, 32 days on the market, price cut twice, still not moving. Total bummer. We've all been there. It's a lovely 4-bedroom home built in 2019 with motivated sellers. Of course, the sellers are motivated. And nothing. So in her county, it went from about 800 homes for sale a year ago to roughly 1,200 today. So way more homes on the market, a little more stagnant. Current days on the market are stretching towards 100 average in her market. So she's competing with, builders handing buyers rate buy downs, upgrades, incentives, right? All those different things. Then she did what most of us were trained to do. She dropped the price and then dropped it again. And then she wanted to know what could she do besides slashing the price a third time. So here are the solution factors. So price, terms, and marketing are the three things that sell a house. And by the way, they're the only three things that we can actually control. You can control the price, you can control the terms, and you control the marketing. Nothing else you can control. The house is what it is. Of course, you can do staging, you can do, other minor things, but those are the three huge factors that I want everybody to just, recognize and take a look at. So when a listing's not selling, you don't go hunting for a fourth thing. You look at those three. You look at the price, you look at the terms, you look at the marketing. And the marketing could be that staging and things like that, and even curb appeal upgrades. That all does still fall under marketing technically. So here's the part most agents miss. You don't need all three firing at the same time. You need two of the three. So you need, just one of these levers alone can't carry a listing, no matter how strong it is. So here's some examples of that. A great price, great terms, your marketing can be weak, and the house still sells. We've seen that in other markets, right? Great terms, soft price, backed by good marketing. That works. Sharp price, weak terms, strong marketing. That could also work. So you got to have two of the three. And it's a really good thing to just keep in mind and to understand when you're pricing these homes. So, when only one of the three is working, then you're stuck. And that's when you find yourself in, way too many days on market, which is a total bummer. So, in Martha's case, the marketing was strong. She's running open houses, she's doing social media advertising, she's advertising to the neighbors. So the marketing in her specific situation is not the problem. Her problem is good marketing sitting on top of bad price, bad terms. So the hard truth is that you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars marketing a house with bad price and bad terms, and it still isn't going to sell. So just think about that, because it's super true. Marketing is never the fix for a pricing problem. If your price is off, it doesn't matter what kind of marketing you do, you can't, sell ice to Eskimos. So before you pour another dollar into the listing, you at least have to tweak one of the other two factors. And that's what we want to talk about today, is taking a good hard look at those three factors. Which one is the major problem for you? So in today's market, 2026, I say start with the terms, because, and this is what Bill and I talk about every week, start with the terms, because agents forget that this lever exists. And when I say the terms, I mean the concrete things that the seller can offer. And of course, you have to get your seller to buy into this. But what are these things? Things like homeowner financing, rare, but could be a factor. Buying down the buyer's interest rate, the buy down. We talk about it every week, right, Bill? And then also accepting less money down or being flexible on the closing date. So these are some of the terms that you can mess with that may have an impact on your on the sale of the house. So those are the things that actually can move buyers. So in Martha's market, the builders are winning on terms.
Let me add something there, Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Two, it's not mentioned on that list, but I know a lot of us come to this situation is seller needing maybe a couple weeks time before they can get to their next property. So either a seller rent back or maybe you're willing to give the seller a free few days. That ends up being a very important point for people making moves. We all know moving's not easy, and it's never a perfect, easy process. So sometimes giving extra days post close or a rent back or having flexibility there can actually go a long way.
Love it. I added it.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good one. And then also, just think of any other terms, that you can tweak that may help the property sell. So just terms in general is really, and some agents are really creative, and they, can come up with stuff that, that's not listed here, and we're not even thinking about. So Terms, massive. So, what what else could you do, right? So your seller is not budging on price. Sometimes that happens. They said, no way. I've got a price in my head and I'm not going to go away from that. This is the bottom that I'm willing to sell this house for. So terms can become the entire, the whole game, right? But honestly, the bigger idea is about price. But it's the mistake that we see in every falling market. So you can't just keep chasing the market down. So one of the things that you need to do is when you take a listing is take a real good hard look at days on the market and show that information to your seller and make them understand this is what we're up against. We're up against these different homes that are sitting on the market at reasonable prices, right? So you got to get ahead of it. So think about watching a soccer game, and I mean like a little kid soccer game where they're all just there's a little a little group following the ball around, right? And there's a little swarm. So we've all seen it with our kids soccer game, right? So they chase the ball, and the other team chases the ball too, and everybody's just in this like little huddle around the ball. So what would be a brilliant strategy for a little kid soccer coach is to say, okay, don't chase the kid with the ball, run past the ball and wait for him to get to you, then take the ball, right? And so, of course, in regular soccer, you get flagged for offsides and you'd be, there'd be a turnover. But in little kid soccer, run past the ball. So think of that in your discussion with your sellers, and let them know that we can't just keep chasing the price cuts. Because once you start cutting your price, you've almost in every situation lost. And so, a slow drip of price cuts is chasing the ball, right? It's, in a falling market, if the value is here today and you price it right here, tomorrow you're already overpriced. So let me say that one more time. In a falling market, if the value is here today and you price it right here at this point, tomorrow you're already overpriced because it's a falling market. So you cut, you fall behind, you cut again. You're always one step behind. So in these falling markets, and this is just something that you have to be able to articulate to your sellers, and it's not easy. But do not price the house where the market is today. Price it where the market is going to be 30 days from now. Run past the ball, right? So another way to look at it is when you buy a stock or a stock option, this little screen, the little ticker shows you the high, the low, the average for the day. So to guarantee the sale, you pick the low. The low doesn't mean the floor, but a well-priced listing usually settles between the middle and low and sometimes sparks a bidding war that pushes the number back up. So pricing low on purpose is not giving the house away, and it's really hard to convince your sellers of that. But it is how you create competition instead of joining it and instead of being behind it. So, and then another thing is, in certain listings, you have something that is, obviously not attractive to that particular house. So in our little case study, Martha's home is a two-story home with a bedroom upstairs, and in her area, it's mostly retirees, and so the buyers moving there usually want the master on the main floor. So some agents try to market their way around a structural fact, saying that they'll just target the families who are used to stairs, or or younger people, or whatever it is. But that doesn't work. That's a magic trick, and it doesn't work. And you'll never be able to, hide that fact. So when something is very, very true about a house that's working against you, don't hide it in the marketing. Show it in the price, and just make sure that you're pricing that accordingly, because you know that one major factor is going to affect who is going to be looking at your properties. So here is a quick version of using these levers. Okay, so first of all, audit the three levers: price, terms, and marketing. Be honest about which are actually working. You need two of the three. Bottom line. Number two, never fix a price problem with marketing. You cannot spend enough money to rescue a mispriced property. You know, especially with weak terms in your listing. So number three, build the terms. Seller financing, rate buy downs, less money down, flexible closing date. Allowing the seller or the buyer more time. So any one of those can become your second lever, and in many cases it does, and it makes the difference. Number four, price where the market will be in 30 days, not where it sits today. Get ahead of the ball. And then also number five, pick the low of the range to guarantee the sale. So when you're doing your CMAs, and notice we didn't spend a lot of time today just discussing how do you do a CMA. That's all stuff that we've talked about in the past. You can look up our other um, uh, webinars. You can do research on that. This is more high level stuff and kind of more cerebral, right? So you want to pick the low of the range to guarantee the sale. Let the buyers negotiate you up. At least you're getting action. You're getting notice. You're not just uh, in the fray, right? And then the
And
last,
Kevin,
yeah, go ahead.
and sometimes if you price the home aggressively, you'll get multiple offers, which you can you know leverage up to maybe the higher price point that the seller is looking for. So,
Yeah.
creating that competition, like you said, sometimes turns into multiple offers, and then you kind of bring that price up through that process.
Yeah, and in these falling markets, that's really where you have to be because we just know what the alternative is. The alternative is your property is going to sit, and when they sit, they get cold. The realtors stop showing them. People stop looking at them, and so that's the absolute opposite of where you want to be.
Well, yeah, and if it does start to sit, new listings are coming on the market as yours is getting progressively stale.
Yeah,
So that's why, we all know the statistics by the first 2 or 3 weeks are the premier weeks of your activity, of your showings, of just views online. So it's really imperative to get this thing nailed right out of the gates.
yeah. I mean, right out of the gates.
And seasonally too. You got to put a seasonal factor in there as well. So if you're going into the holidays or you're going into, maybe you're listing it right now, and like we say, the dog days of summer, those things have to go into your equation as well.
100%. Um, And then, of course, the last thing is just let the structural truths show in the price. Don't try to market around, things that are issues with the house. Bad, bad, bad idea. So basically, in this market, our job is not to sugarcoat, not to panic. It's to give the seller the truth about the house, kindly and clearly, and then hand them a strategy that actually gets that house sold. So that is the service. That's the coaching. You want to serve, don't sell, coach, don't close in this kind of a market because that is exactly what's going to help that seller get that thing sold. So super, super important things to just keep in mind. And then I've just got some other notes that I'll include on the replay. So basically, California's median home price right now sits around 940,000 or 904,000 as of June 2026. We're down from a record of 930 in May, but still up slightly over last year. Mortgage rates are hovering around 6.65 to 6.75, which remember historically not that horrible if you really think about it. I know it's tough to think about when rates were 3% and things
In
like that.
2002, when I got my license, Kevin, they were about 7.5. So
That's right. The first house that you got me into, I think we were right there at like 6.5, and I was happy as a clam.
The only difference is things are about threefold more expensive.
That is the crux, isn't
So
it?
while the interest rates are relatively historically fine, the prices are through the roof. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
disconnect.
That's the rub, right?
Hmm.
So anyway, like I said, there's just some good things to just keep in mind here, and then I'll also just do the kind of the practical pricing approach for realtors this year. Price to the local micro market, of course. Lean on a tight CMA with recent comps, 30 to 60-day comps. Really do 30-day comps in a falling market, and understand that it's probably falling as well based on your uh, your research. Then also price at or just under recent comps to spark competition, especially in tighter submarkets, which we all understand. Watch the price drop rate as a leading indicator. Super important. Then you're going to be ahead of the ball, right? And you're going to be able to educate your clients on what is happening in the market because they think they know the market, but you are the expert. Also, factor in insurance costs, especially for HOAs and high fire risk properties, things like that. California, lovely. And then, as Bill said, set seasonal expectations with sellers. And then segment strategy by price tier. So, luxury, second home segments, is behaving differently. Those drive way differently. They're driven by cash, investment buyers, things like that. And then entry level and mid market, more sensitive, right? Way more rate sensitive. So, bottom line is treat 2026 as the price it right the first time market. That was the theme of the entire webinar today. Data driven, hyper local comps, quick to adjust to sub-market conditions, and increasingly attentive to insurance carrying cost factors. And of course, as we talked about, making sure that you are setting up the terms correctly because that probably is going to be your one lever that's going to make the difference. So, any other takeaways that you have, Bill, from today's pricing webinar?
Yeah, I just see here in the chat, Ray Benito asked, can you share examples of how to write the verbiage on the remarks section? Um, this definitely is something that you want to consider, especially if you have the conversations with your seller about concessions or rate buy downs or, um, things of that nature. I like to put the verbiage in there, but I don't like to be specific, like $20,000 or, putting a specific number because you just want people to, in my opinion, you just want people to, you want activity, you want phone calls, you want conversations about the property and potential terms. So I like to say something like leave it more open-ended, like seller is willing to participate in rate buy down or, closing cost concessions. You're not putting a number in there, but you're showing the other party that there is a willingness of negotiating, there's a willingness to help. And I think that's really all you need to say. You don't need to give an actual dollar amount. Um, and I know some of the rules of kind of they're pretty nitpicky on it. So, you know, but that's kind of the way I like to position it. Seller is willing to do this. You know what I mean? And you're not pigeonholed into a certain amount or type of concession.
Yeah, and then John Espinosa also said this was earlier in the webinar. Say that the home has a Section 1 clearance. Repairs have been completed. So
I mean, that's something that's always nice to know, right? If you're a buyer,
yeah,
then knowing that the termite work's been done, I think that's actually probably a pretty strong consideration to getting the termite done ahead of time. Um, I just, you know, had a family friend. I sold a property in San Diego, and the listing agent hadn't done the termite work. We had asked for a termite report, and it was a fairly quick close, and they brought us the termite report. within a handful, just a couple days of closing, and there was about 4 grand worth of termite work that nobody was really expecting. So, it's I think it's better to get it done on the front end, and I'm sure John does that, and I think that's smart because basically another real important variable going into the negotiation process.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thanks for that, John. All right, and so couple little things. We are as a brokerage. I'm sure you guys all were excited about our home year presentation the other week, and we are going to be bringing that to our agents. So next week we're going to have Addie come back and give us another presentation and show us how we can start using home year. So that's going to be really exciting, right, Bill?
Yeah, I mean that's all the AI stuff, right?
Yeah.
I
So
saw in a headline, I just think just this morning, either adopt and get used to using it, or you know what I mean, get left in the dust.
get out of the way.
So I feel like, it's kind of the harsh reality of the way things are going that we actually have to plug into this and know how it's working for us, and because the other agents are going to do it. And so when you go on a listing presentation or you go work with buyers or clients and the other agent knows exactly how to use AI to market and to do these things, I mean, you're at a real disadvantage. And you might be a likable person and Kevin might be the best guy in the world, but if he doesn't know how to use these tools and the guy on the street that's doing all the sales does, we know where the business is going to flow to. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's great, Kevin. Happy to be back on that webinar for sure. I'm just intrigued by it at this point. I know I'm not the person who's on the forefront of the technology, but I'm getting better at not being the guy in the back of the bus either.
absolutely, Bill. And then also super excited. We've launched Lofty, our new CRM and website system. A lot of our agents are moving over, getting their stuff set up. Uploading their lists and exporting their lists from Sierra, and so that's been a really a huge lift for a lot of agents. But we're getting that done. We do have until the end of the month to get everything off of Sierra and make sure that our new websites are all set up. So continue to the what we've found, the agents that are already doing that migration is making sure that they're joining the Lofty webinars and the Lofty help centers and all that kind of stuff. And the coolest thing that I've been using with the Lofty system is when I'm confused about how I do something, it has the AI feature, and you literally just ask the system, "Hey, I want to do this. How do I do that?" And it tells you exactly how to do it. It's unreal. So, we're the winning combination for our Alta agents is going to be using the Lofty system with Homier and using those two things that heavily rely on AI. And it's been streamlining everything. So, super excited. If you haven't moved your stuff over from Sierra, start to do it today if you could. And then also for those agents that are interested in being part of Program 2, that is just 99 bucks a month, gives you access to Lofty, brand new website system, really customizable, scalable, so many great things that you can do with it, and it's really easy. It's all drag and drop and just touch of a button stuff. So if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me and we will get you set up with your Lofty account.
Yeah,
So, Bill,
Kevin,
yes, sir.
just one more thing. I see that Ray Benita had one more question about would you recommend a home inspection by sellers done early and make it available to the buyer? This is one of the bigger distinctions between selling properties in Northern California versus Southern California. Typically in Northern California, as our agents up there will attest to, typically the seller does get a home inspection done before they list the property and they get all their disclosures done and they're already ready for review even before they potentially or buyer and a buyer's agent will make an offer. So it's usually there so you can kind of see it, review it. It's just a different process. Down here in Southern California, we do it a little differently. We actually typically use the investigation period in the contract for the buyer to choose their home inspection. They typically don't rely on the seller for that process. So, not that you can't do it, but I think you kind of stick with the norms of which area of the state you're doing your business in, because otherwise you probably are kind of fighting upstream or downstream on what everyone's used to doing. So depending on where you're selling the property, Ray, I would go in that the way the market tends to go and not fight that process.
Yeah, and then John says, yes, that's what they do in Northern Cal, and it does eliminate surprises. So good point, John.
Yeah. Well, good questions. Good training today, Kevin. This is a big one. This is an important one. And if you guys ever have any questions about the process or developing a process, always happy to help with that. And I'm here for a phone call, whatever you guys need or whatever. And I'm certainly have developed a process in my uh, my term here and as a broker and as an agent. And as I did tell you a couple weeks ago, I did turn down a $2.4 million listing because it for me it wasn't going to be worth my time to list and market a property that was probably worth about 2.1 in my eyes. So
Yeah.
um,
And
time is
the seller
important.
wouldn't listen to your expert advice, and so you
No.
made the smart call.
Yeah. And it's just going to be a waste. It's going to be a frustrating experience for everybody. And I value my time. And, it's if it's not going to be a fit, then maybe I know it's hard to turn down business sometimes, but, you know, it can save you some sanity.
Well, and also your time is your number one asset, and so you have to spend it wisely, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, for sure. But the more that you know what you're talking about, the better you can help a seller come to a realistic number. And so you got to have your A game, and you got to know your statistics, know your competitive listings, know the features, know where they sit in the neighborhood, are they next to the school, they're next to the park, they're next to a busy street. All those things matter. And so you really have to do a good job of analyzing that and knowing what you're talking about. So
Yeah, and study it every week. It's just just if there's one thing that you're going to spend some time on it, that's being sharp about your market, your micro market, your farm. That's the most value you can bring to your sellers, right?
100%. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We always enjoy these conversations and these powwows. And so, yeah, look forward to next week, Kevin.
All right, me too. All right, agents. Well, with that case, or in that case, get out there, make today a great day and a productive day, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday on the webinar. Bye bye.